Okay, hello everyone. This is Melinda, and I want to welcome you to the introductory phase of the new course that I am in the process of creating about how to work from home as a technical proposal writer. Um, Currently, this is just a test movie. It will be replaced once the course goes live to the public. But right now, this is in development. This is a back end course. It specifically came as the result of uh, a bunch of questions that I've seen in various RV groups on Facebook. And people want to know, is there any way to work from home and it not be sketchy and it not be shady and it not be multi-level marketing and it not be selling candles or soap or being a telemarketer, things that, if you need the money, it's great to have that option. But really, there's no reason for people to have to do something like that if they have the ability to do more. And the great thing about technical proposal writing is that really anyone can do it as long as you have the ability to write. And I would say to write well. You don't have to be in the top 1%, but you have to be a good writer. You have to enjoy writing. You can't hate it. I like to tell people, if you were in the 6th grade and the teacher announced all of a sudden, okay, class, we're having an essay test today. If you were one of the handful of students that said, yay, essay test instead of you're going to probably make a really good technical writer. And if you were one of the massive students that said when the teacher said that, yeah, this is really not for you, and try and find something else to do. But the great thing about technical writing as a part-time or a full-time job, you can do it remotely. You can do it from anywhere. All you need is a computer. You need a few software applications we'll go over. Nothing major, nothing super expensive. And you need the ability to write, and you need to be able to stay organized. You need to be able to see the forest for the trees as well as the individual trees. And you have to be a little bit fearless to get into this industry because it's not hard, it's not difficult, but there's a very steep learning curve to go from knowing nothing about it to actually being able to do it. That doesn't mean it's difficult. It just means it's not apparent. It's not something really that most people would be able to figure out on their own because there's so many moving pieces. But you don't have to worry about that because I've already figured it all out. Well, not all of it, but I've figured out enough to be able to at least teach it to you. Um, Very briefly about my background, I have a master's degree in public administration from Florida State University. I left Tallahassee as an adult and moved up to DC, moved back to DC because I'd interned in college in DC and I caught Potomac fever and loved DC and wanted to work there. So I went up there and I didn't want to work in government, so I went over to the nonprofit side. I became a nonprofit manager, and the various nonprofits I worked for, the very first one, they noticed that I really had a strong writing aptitude. And they said, we would like you to work with our development director on fundraising. And I ended up becoming their grant writer. And then I had several subsequent jobs as a grant writer. And I'll tell you, grant writing is a lot more difficult than technical proposal writing because to write grants, you have to understand very thoroughly what it is you're writing about. You have to be able to explain it cogently. You have to be able to sell the program. You have to be able to do the budgeting. It's hard. It's not for everyone. So I did that for about 15 years, and then a situation came up where one of the folks I was grant writing for, her brother owned a company, a construction firm. Their technical proposal writer got very ill and was unable to work, and they had emergency because they were on deadline and they didn't have anyone else there that was able to write. So she said, Melinda, will you please go and help my brother, and they'll pay you very well, and he says it's very easy. And so I went and met with him, and he showed me what it was all about. And I started looking at this, and I was like, "You're crazy! I can't do this. I don't know what this is about. I'm a grant writer." He's like, "No, no, no, no. I'll help you." So they gave me a small background and sort of threw me into it head first in the deep end of the pool. And looking back, I made some terrible blunders and terrible mistakes, but they won the award anyway because they were sort of in the top running for it, and unless they really screwed up, they were going to win that award. And I'll tell you as an aside, the places where you can really super screw up is on the peripheral paperwork. The technical writing part, it's important, but it's not make or break unless you really flub it up. The really important stuff is the peripheral paperwork that accompanies the technical proposal. You can't screw that up. That's why I say you have to be able to see the forest and see each individual tree. Um, Doing this for a living really requires at least a little bit of OCD, because you have to look at every individual piece of every piece of paperwork before it's submitted and make sure there are no errors. And that's great when you're on a team of people and you have other people going behind you and checking your work and you're checking their work. Well, as a write from home proposal writer, once you get into it, there may not be anybody else checking your work. It may go just as you do it to the contracting officer for the federal government. And then if they see a mistake, your company's going to lose, or your company can lose. They have a lot of discretion. So in a lot of cases, your paperwork can go in with some minor technical errors, and it'll still be just fine. They'll give you the opportunity to correct it, and then go ahead and you'll win the award. But if that's a way that they can weed out companies that they simply don't want to award to, is they will find the smallest, most minute error, and I'm talking like transposing a comma with a period or something to that effect, and just say sorry, you lose, technical error. So you really do have to be very, very careful. But so I wrote several proposals for my friend's brother's company, and they won them, and it was great, and they paid me very, very well. And I was pretty lost from the first day I did it until I left DC and moved back to Alabama. And I fell into a job doing this full time. And with my background in grant writing and the proposals I'd done, I was perfectly qualified on paper for the job. But walking in there, I didn't even know how much I didn't know about what I needed to know in order to do the job effectively. So doing it full time for over 3 years, every day on deadline, every day with the pressure, every day making leaps and bounds in what I knew, has propelled me up to a place where I can teach this to you quickly, effectively. We're not going to cover, stuff that doesn't matter. We're only going to cover what matters. And once you finish this entire course, you will have, as long as you do it with me and you follow the steps and you get the software and you do the practice and you develop the portfolio, you really ought to be able to go to find a client, find a potential client, and go to them and say, here's my portfolio, I know how to do this. You can speak intelligently with them. You'll know the terminology, you'll know what to say and how to say it. And assuming that the small business owner has the funding to pay you, you should be fine. You should be able to do this, and then you get a client, and then your client tells his friends how great you are, and you get more clients. Or there's various ways to do that. We're not covering anything in detail right now. We're just doing the very basic specifics. But sort of one of the points of this video is to sort of show you the kinds of things that we will be learning as part of this lecture series, course series, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and show you something, a few things probably, and just so you get a sense of where we're going with this and whether this is right for you. So what I'm going to do here is try and back out of that a little bit. Cancel, get out of here. I apologize, I'm not the most technically proficient person in the world when it comes to certain things, but let's see if we can get out of this. All right, maybe not. I'm going to pause for a second if I can. No, I can't. Okay, well, that's cool. Let's do it this way. There we go.